I'm your host, Donna Cates, and each week we'll dive into powerful stories, expert strategies, and practical tools to help you take charge of your financial future. Whether you're planning for retirement, navigating a divorce, or simply looking to build your wealth with confidence, this is your space to grow, learn, and thrive. Let's get started with today's podcast. Welcome, everybody. I'm excited to introduce you today to Kristin Burke. She is a goal achievement coach and she is the host of Elite Achievement Podcast. So welcome, Kristin. I'm delighted to have you today. I'm very eager to dive deep into your career journey. So can you start by sharing with us a little bit about who you are and what you do and why you got into it, please?
Absolutely, Donna, and thank you so much for having me here today. I'm looking forward to our conversation. So, as you mentioned, I am a goal achievement coach and host of the Elite Achievement Podcast. And Donna, my journey to become a goal achievement coach actually started when I worked in the financial services industry. So I worked in the industry about 15 years before deciding to start my own practice. And I ultimately wanted to start my own practice so I could make a bigger impact and choose the clients that I get to work with and be able to do the thing that I fell in love with doing while I was working in the industry, which is coaching, helping people maximize their potential and achieve their definitions of success. And today, I tend to partner with high-performing leaders, advisors, business owners, and I help them close the gap between the goals they set and the goals that they achieve.
That is so empowering. And I can tell you that most of us financial people, we have big goals and we want to help everybody, but we might not be the best at kind of figuring out what do we do to get there. We just want to do go, 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 go. Would you agree with that?
I agree. Most of the advisors I know, they have a vision and they're very passionate about making an impact. And where they get caught up is in the execution piece, which is often a result of not knowing the next steps to take, or how do you balance the growth with serving your clients? Because you probably have a lot of clients and that takes time and you're prepping the plans and you're reviewing with clients. You need a structured way to build in those initiatives to grow your practice and achieve those visions.
Absolutely. And I have to say, because I am taking time during my workday as a financial advisor to do the podcast, so it can be done, right?
Yes, it can.
Abs-
If you have a passion and a clear vision and why, it can absolutely get done.
Well, tell me, you're in a unique position because you're coaching a
Mhm.
very specific niche, but tell me, what is the biggest problem that you see in the industry today, and what are you doing to solve that?
Oh, that is such a wonderful question. And one of the problems that I see in the industry today is where to take the practice. So, when I first started in the financial services industry, there were a lot of solopreneurs. And now, today, there are so many directions that you can grow your practice. You can continue being a solopreneur, you can grow a very large team, you can partner with individuals, you can start your own RIA, you can go out on your own, right? There are just so many options. And I think that that can be really challenging for advisors who haven't taken the time to work on the business. So many advisors continue to work in the business and they fill their calendar with client meetings and seeking new clients. And if you don't take that time to work on the business and to vision and to get really clear on what you want to build, all of those choices can become really challenging because you're just kind of grabbing. You're not sure which one you should build and why you should go that route.
And it's a huge juggle from 1 minute to the next. So without taking that time, I can totally appreciate the value of that. So tell me, what's unique about the way that you're working with people like me to help them improve?
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes me unique is that my coaching calls with my private coaching clients, they're all different. Yes, many advisors have some of the same challenges. Some even have similar goals, but the way we go about it is really customized and tailored to that advisor. And I think, Donna, that's different than some of the other coaches. There have been so many programs that have come out or courses that have come out. And I understand why a lot of coaches are doing this. And sometimes that's what an advisor needs. But I've also found that so many advisors really appreciate that individualized, personalized attention to help them grow their businesses.
And I can't help but to think that just like I don't do cookie cutter investing for
Mm-hmm.
clients, um, I can't imagine that cookie cutter would work for me as a client of yours. So having that unique perspective and focusing on the individual practice is huge, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I'm sure, like in your business, you use similar frameworks, just like I'll use similar frameworks, but the conversations that we have or the topics that we talk about, how we get there is all very different based on the client.
Got it. Got it. So tell me where you see the industry going in the next 5 to 10 years and how are you staying on top of that today?
Yeah, that's a really exciting question. And one of the things that I think a lot about is the integration of technology and how is that shaping the industry? How is that changing the industry? And so I think advisors are who don't adopt new forms of technology are going to have a very difficult time. And so I think that it's important for advisors to figure out and consider how they can compliantly integrate AI tools into their business and different forms of technology to better serve the clients. And I know I've seen a lot of the debates. Well, is this going to replace advisors? And the same could be true for a coach. Like, is this going to replace a coach? And, it's funny because I had this conversation with my own coach. I'm like, well, I put this into Chat GPT and Chatty told me this. And she's like, what? Every time you tell me about Chatty, I think, am I getting replaced? And I'm like, no, there's this human element that is absolutely still needed. The technology can be a tool to help us think differently, to be more creative, to be more efficient, to tighten up our systems and processes. But when it comes to financial planning or when it comes to coaching these professional services, there's a human element that is so important.
It's so essential because I know, at least with money, money is an emotional thing.
Mm.
Everything that I mean, regardless, that's a human connection, because you're not going to get the empathy from AI. There's no way they can do that, not yet anyway. So
Not
I
yet.
think we're all safe from our jobs. So it's hopefully just going to make us a lot more efficient, so that we
Mm-hmm.
have more time to spend having conversations with our clients and helping them figure out what's important to them and what they need to be doing to protect and grow their wealth. So
For
awesome.
sure.
So I would love for you to share with me, one of the biggest challenges that you face thus far in your life. This could
Mm.
be personal or professional, whatever suits
Yeah.
you, and how that's actually shaped how you're doing business today.
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the biggest challenges that I have faced so far, I think what comes to mind for me, Donna, is the challenge of learning when to trust myself versus not trust myself. So I'll go back, even thinking about when I was working in the financial services industry. I started coaching advisors back in 2009, so kind of might date me here on the podcast, but started coaching them in 2009. And I remember we moved in 2020, and I remember finding a journal entry, like a notebook from 2011. And I had started to outline the rough draft of a coaching business back in 2011. And I didn't start my business until 2019. And that's because it took me that time to grow my confidence, to learn to trust myself, to lean into my intuition. And I think then even as I started my business in those first couple early years, there was so much comparison and, well, you should do this, or you should create programs, and you should. And I think it can be a challenge, especially for women, to learn to trust ourselves and to silence a lot of the outside noise and trust that we're building what we want to build, why we want to build it, and we're doing it how we want to build it. So that for me has been one of the challenges in business, as well as what we all face, like learning to overcome rejection. But I think the more comfortable you become with, on to the next or something better, it can help you overcome the rejection. But honestly, it's been learning to trust myself and just following my own intuition has been a journey.
I would love to know if you have any specific tips or strategies that you use to develop that trust in
Mhm.
yourself and building that confidence and such.
Yeah, I think a couple things come to mind. One, I've gotten pretty disciplined with meditation. Now, everyone approaches meditation differently. I still like a guided meditation. You know, the type A achiever in me kind of likes it tracked all in one app. I'm not great at just sitting down quietly, but meditation has really helped me be more present and silent, kind of a lot of the outside noise. So that has been one thing. Another thing that has been really helpful, and I think this will be good for your listeners, is that if you have any sort of testimonials for the work that you've done, so if you've gathered any testimonials, here's where our AI friend can help. Upload those testimonials into Chat GPT and ask Chat, based on these testimonials, what value do I bring? And that can be an absolute game changer, because again, I think as women we have a hard time recognizing our value. We don't give ourselves enough credit, like we think we're not good enough. But if you can then get played back for you, here's the value you bring, here's how you help clients, that can be a really a big game changer for helping you lean into your own intuition and trusting yourself.
Okay, so I have to say, I absolutely am going to do that as soon as we finish this conversation, because that's huge. And I literally got goosebumps when you were saying it. So again, an opportunity for AI to do something positive for us, because I can just imagine uh, that robust response that's coming. And I haven't even started yet, but I can see that coming, right?
Yes. And Donna, what I hope that will do for you is it might change the way you approach, future conversations. It might change how you describe your work. It might change your confidence, where if someone does say no, you're like, well, that's okay. I've got so much more opportunity. I have found in such a strange way, ChatGPT can be a really great confidence partner if you use it in the right way.
Ooh, I love that. Awesome. I'm definitely going to do that. And I encourage everybody else to do that and to share your results with us. If you can put those out on social media so that we can say, ooh, go girl. That's awesome. All right. Shifting gears again. If you could have lunch with any person, living or deceased, who would
Ooh.
you choose that to be and why?
This is an interesting question, because I was actually thinking about the person this morning. And so this makes me feel like my answer is very aligned. But there was a consultant that I knew from when I was working in the industry, and her name was Jan Teresi Mokwa. And she passed away several years ago in a really crazy, freak kind of accident, driving. But the reason that I think about Jan is Donna, because I remember sitting in leadership meetings and watching Jan facilitate the meeting. And we know financial services tends to be very heavily male dominated. And so here's a woman that's leading this room of leaders, mostly male leaders. And she had such incredible executive presence. She was so well respected. And I remember looking at her being like, I want to do that someday. And I had that thought this morning as I was walking home after taking my daughter to school, where I'm like, I'm doing the work that I saw Jan do. And I was very fortunate because I got to coach with her when I was in a recruiting role. And I just wish I could sit down and have a conversation with her and let her know how much of an influence and an impact she was on me, but then also feel like, okay, what do I need to do to like get to the next level? How do I keep growing? But I had that moment today where I'm like, gosh, I'd really love to sit down and have lunch with her.
Oh my goodness, that's so inspirational. And I'm positive that she's probably admiring everything that you're doing
I hope.
along the way right now. So, and especially, I'd love for you to share a little bit with us about your podcast. Can you share with me the
Mm-hmm.
purpose of your
Mm.
podcast, why you do it, how you enjoy it, who are the people that you feature on it? Just tell us more
Sure.
about that.
Sure. Thanks for that opportunity. Well, let's go back to, I told you one of my challenges was like learning to trust myself and taking that leap. And so one of the things that was so instrumental in inspiring me to start my own business was listening to podcasts. So I would listen to podcasts. I remember I would listen to them while I was getting ready for work. I used to live in downtown LA, so I would walk to the office and I'd pop a podcast in on my walk. And I remember feeling so inspired, and I borrowed a lot of confidence and courage from those podcast hosts in my early days of business. And so I knew, Donna, that I wanted to host a podcast. And my original purpose and intention behind hosting the podcast was to give back, just like so many other hosts had poured into me. And so I started the podcast in 2020. And I love how it's gone through a couple different iterations, and I've changed some of the way that I podcast, and I think that happens with a lot of podcasters. You start the thing because we all have to start somewhere. If you overthink it, you're never going to start the podcast. Right. Mm-hmm. So I started it, and then you kind of find out what you like or what you don't like or where you're at, and so elite achievement has really grown over the years, just as I've grown in business and as my confidence level has grown. And today, the podcast really features conversations around how to become elite. So it's a podcast for the high-performing leaders, business owners that want to understand more about setting and achieving their goals, want to understand more about thinking like a CEO. We explore some of the challenges that these leaders and business owners face. And it's a blend between solo episodes and guest interviews.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Well, I haven't tuned in yet, but I definitely will, so I can learn from the best. That'll be fabulous. Well, I would love for you to share with us what's the best way for people to connect with you if they want to learn more about the work that you do and possibly work with you.
Yeah. Well, one great way is check out the podcast. So Elite Achievement. So it's on all the major podcast platforms. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I am at Kristin Burke, and Kristin is with 2 I's. So Kristin Burke on LinkedIn. And then my website is kristinburke.com.
Perfect. Simple enough, and I love it. Well, thank you so much for being a guest today. It was lovely to see you, and I appreciate you so much.
Donna, thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, informed, and ready to take the next step in your financial journey. Remember, building wealth isn't just about money. It's also about creating a life that aligns with your goals and values. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with the women in your life who deserve financial empowerment too. Until next time, stay confident, stay empowered, and keep building the life you desire.